The clock starts ticking the absolute second that 911 call connects. In the highly disciplined world of criminal investigation, the first 60 minutes after law enforcement arrives is known as the golden hour. It's a razor-thin window of time that holds immense power. During these crucial moments, every single footstep, every touch, and every decision dictates whether justice will ultimately be served or if the truth will be permanently lost. We're stepping behind the yellow tape to meticulously break down the strict protocols, the forensic science, and the legal procedures that govern a U.S. crime scene.
If there is a single, unyielding commandment in criminal investigation, it's this: preserve the scene as found. Now, that sounds incredibly simple on paper, right? But in the chaotic, adrenaline-fueled reality of a fresh crime scene, it's actually one of the most difficult principles to maintain. Human instinct is to intervene. We want to clean up, to move things out of the way. But the moment an object is shifted even an inch, its context is altered forever. This foundational rule dictates absolutely everything that happens next. From the very first responding patrol officer to the lead homicide detective, every action is carefully calculated to freeze time, protecting the environment exactly as the suspect left it.
The intense pressure of that first half hour unfolds in distinct, rapid phases. In minutes 0 to 10, the trigger event is the dispatch. First responders, patrol officers, EMS, and sometimes fire units are rushing to an entirely unknown situation. Their objective is a rapid but highly controlled arrival. They have to maintain extreme situational awareness because the environment is volatile. Moving into minutes 10 to 20, the objective shifts to stabilization and control. Physical boundaries are drawn, unauthorized individuals are pushed back, and witnesses are immediately separated so their memories and statements don't start to blend together. By minute 20 to 30, a supervisor or lead officer arrives to establish command. They conduct a very limited, careful preliminary walkthrough to classify the scene and call in the heavy hitters: detectives, the crime scene unit, or the medical examiner.
But before any science can even begin, physical danger must be neutralized. The priorities of these first responders are strictly ordered. Step 1. Ensure scene safety. You simply cannot investigate a room if there's an active threat waiting in the dark. Officers have to clear the area first. Step 2 is providing life-saving aid. Preserving human life always, without exception, supersedes the preservation of evidence. If paramedics need to cut through a victim's clothing or move a weapon to save a life, they do it. Step 3 is identifying and detaining any suspects who might still be lingering in the chaos. And finally, Step 4 is broadcasting their initial observations back to dispatch. They're painting a verbal picture of the scene before anything is altered.
To impose strict order onto a chaotic environment, officers establish unyielding perimeters. That yellow tape you see on television, it isn't just a suggestion. It's a legally defensible boundary. We're looking at two distinct zones here. The inner perimeter contains the core crime scene. This is where the actual event took place. Access here is fiercely restricted. Only essential forensic personnel and the lead investigators are allowed inside. Then, we have the outer perimeter. This acts as a vital buffer zone. It's the staging area where paramedics can wait, where command sets up their temporary headquarters, and where media or the public are kept at a safe distance. This two-tier system ensures that the chaos of the emergency response doesn't trample the quiet truth of the evidence. Now, you might be wondering, why are these perimeters so aggressive? It's because a crime scene is incredibly fragile. During this first hour, the risks are monumental. The biggest enemy is evidence contamination, whether that's from the environment or from the first responders themselves. Then there's the devastating loss of transient evidence. Think of a muddy footprint rapidly dissolving in sudden rain, the fading smell of gunpowder, or the dissipating heat from a vehicle's engine. These elements exist only for moments. We also face witness memory degradation. With every passing minute, a witness's recollection becomes just a little less reliable. There's even the risk of misclassifying the scene entirely, like treating a homicide like a routine accident. Every single second counts, and the environment is actively working against the investigators. As the second half of the golden hour begins, the atmosphere at the scene shifts dramatically. The shouting stops, the urgency of securing the area gives way to meticulous, clinical precision. From minutes 30 to 40, the focus is entirely on locking down evidence preservation. By minutes 40 to 50, the specialized units arrive. The Crime Scene Unit, or CSU, takes over the physical processing, while detectives begin the psychological processing, structuring witness interviews and developing initial theories. If there's a fatality, the medical examiner steps in to confirm death and offer a preliminary estimate of the time of death. Finally, minutes 50 to 60 are dedicated to preliminary documentation. Once that scene is locked down, investigators begin categorizing evidence into four main types. First is biological evidence, like blood or DNA, which requires immense care to prevent degradation. Next is physical evidence, like a discarded weapon or clothing fibers. Then we have impression evidence, such as tire marks or footprints. And finally, trace evidence, those microscopic clues like a single hair or a shard of glass. To protect all of this, strict preservation measures are deployed. Investigators suit up in PPE, gloves, shoe covers, masks, so they don't leave their own DNA behind. They might erect tents to shield evidence from the weather. And crucially, they initiate a scene entry log. If your name goes on that log, you are now a part of the official investigation. You can be called to testify in court as to exactly why you crossed that yellow line. Before a single piece of that evidence is bagged, the golden rule of documentation must be satisfied. The scene must be recorded completely untouched. This is a three-pronged approach. First, photography. Investigators shoot systematically, starting with wide-angle environmental shots, moving to mid-range context shots, and finally extreme close-ups of the evidence with scale markers. Second is sketching. Photos can sometimes distort distance, so an accurate sketch captures the precise layout, exact measurements, and spatial relationships of objects in the room. Third, detailed handwritten notes. The camera can't capture the temperature of the room, the smell of natural gas, or the fact that a specific lamp was turned on when officers arrived. These notes fill in the critical gaps that technology leaves behind.
Once documentation is flawless, the collection begins, and with it, the birth of the chain of custody. This is a foundational concept in criminology. The chain of custody is a meticulously documented, unbroken paper trail. It tracks a piece of evidence from the exact moment it's lifted from the crime scene all the way to the moment it's presented to a jury in a courtroom. Every single time that evidence changes hands, from the scene investigator to the transport officer to the lab technician to the evidence vault, it is signed, dated, and timestamped. Why? Because defense attorneys will attack this chain mercilessly. A single break, just one unexplained gap in this chain, can render a critical piece of evidence completely inadmissible in court.
But science and procedure are really only half the battle. Investigators are also navigating a strict legal minefield. Under the Fourth Amendment of the U.S. Constitution, citizens are protected against unreasonable searches and seizures. Normally, police need a signed warrant from a judge to enter a property and collect evidence. However, the first 60 minutes often involve what the law calls exigent circumstances. These are urgent, legally recognized exceptions to the warrant requirement. If there's an immediate danger to life, if there's a highly probable risk that evidence is about to be actively destroyed, or if officers are in hot pursuit of a fleeing suspect, they can enter without a warrant. But the burden of proof is heavily on the officers. Their documentation must perfectly justify that the chaotic reality on the ground legally demanded immediate action.
When the 60th minute passes, the golden hour closes. The transition from chaos to a stabilized, legally sound, and scientifically protected environment is complete. The primary objectives have been met. Lives have been protected, the boundaries are secured, delicate physical evidence is shielded from destruction, and the long, arduous process of a criminal investigation has officially begun. The integrity of an entire case, years of upcoming legal battles, the fate of the accused, and closure for the victims all hinge on the discipline executed during this incredibly brief window of time. If the protocols hold, the truth survives. Comment your thoughts on this video. Also, subscribe to us to see more videos like this in the future. See you in the next video.